And we are live. Welcome back to another episode of the Coach Mo Murphy podcast. As always, I'm your host, Coach Mo Murphy. And back in the building today, we got obviously a familiar face to everybody who watches the show or listens to the show, a familiar voice. My guy, Jeff Hunt, is back in the building. It's been a couple weeks. The last time we talked was right after the Ohio State and Indiana game. So first off, Jeff, how are you?
Good, man. Just had a good holiday. Well, as you know, you have a son the same age. My grandson is 3 years old now. So this Christmas was awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? From Nintendos to toys to bouncing around the house, really knowing what was up. So really good, really good time. He's signed up for his first youth sports. He's going to start soccer here in a few weeks. You know what I mean? He's excited for that. Had to show me his new cleats. So as perspective wise, really good holidays, man. I hope you and your family had a great one also.
Yeah, we did. You know, my dad, as we're recording this is his last day in town, but he came out for a week.
Why'd you have on a show, man?
Yeah, well, he's not here. They're at the Airbnb.
Oh, damn.
And, also, because like this summer, I had bought my first house. So this was the holidays of first. So first Thanksgiving in the house as a homeowner, first Christmas as a homeowner. So a small little adult, celebration while being adults.
Yeah,
The kids won't understand of that, the feeling of that. To them, it was just a bigger house, a bigger Christmas. But, definitely had a great holiday. But I've been waiting for this conversation. And there was
you have been
so much so that I had to go solo just to get because there was just so much on my mind that I had to talk about. And with the holidays, that's kind of what messed it up. Is I didn't really want to reach out during the holidays, right? The 23rd, the 24th, and obviously Christmas, those days get, hey, family's in town. I'm around family. I'm enjoying the moment. Not really even thinking about talking about sports, but I had to get a thought out. So I did do a solo show through this college football season. Itching though, it was like a preview of all right, this is what y'all get prior to me talking to Jeff. So Jeff, I haven't talked to you in a couple of weeks. The college football playoff first round has happened. That team up north hired their head coach. Don't know how much you care about that. Don't know much, it's kind of big news in the college football world that, so a lot of things happen. Lane Kiffin made an appearance on ESPN last night during LSU's bowl game. It's just something
what
about
a weirdo, man.
Yeah, it's just something about Lane Kiffin that's just a little off to me that I just can't pinpoint it. But everything is happening. So, Jeff, you have the floor. Just your thoughts over the past couple of weeks since our last conversation.
Yeah, it's been crazy, man. I mean, between this because really of eliminating the spring portal has turned this into such a concentrated. I mean, this is at the same time the postseason and the offseason. Imagine the NFL dealing with free agency in week 18. That's what we're dealing with here in college football. I love the playoff. I love how it worked out this year because of the days of the week. I think that the games have been on perfect days. Probably one of my crazy takeaways I didn't see is just yesterday before, the slate of bowl games, the other bowls, not the playoffs, were awesome. Really great day, really fun day. But also the takeaway is so many players not playing, so many players looking to move around and all these things because of the calendar that they got put on. I'm not one of these. It drives me nuts. Here's one of my takeaways from yesterday. I don't need announcers acting like every kid who goes into the transfer portal is doing it because he can't handle it or he's trying to take the easy way out. We have no idea what their season was like. As well as I do, Mo, that some of these kids were probably on teams and were like, man, I'm in the wrong place. I don't fit in. This isn't my offense. This isn't my defense. I don't like the coach. There is no reason that kid should have to sit there and be miserable for another 3 years just because a bunch of old white guys are like, you got to stick it out. No, man, screw that.
And Jeff, somebody might have called and said, hey, man, what you getting paid over there? Oh, I'm getting paid X. Well, guess what? You come over here, you hit the portal, we'll pay you Y.
Yeah.
That's also a factor. It may not even be guys get there and may never plan on transferring. But at the end of the day, if I go and I'm making $500,000 playing at, I don't know, we'll just say Arkansas.
Yeah.
And Alabama called me and I double your salary and you hit the portal.
Who doesn't go?
I'll pay you $1 million. Nobody else in the real world ain't gonna do the same thing. You're double my salary. I'm making $500,000. I could make $1 million going to play for Alabama for a season. I didn't plan on transferring, but $1 million could change my mom's life, my dad's life. Might have a kid at this point, 21, 22 years old, change the trajectory of my kid's life. Like, it's in this world, it's not even all about sports. It's not all about the wrong and right fit. Guys may never plan on transferring until somebody else calls, just like you might get your dream job. Never plan on leaving until somebody else calls and is like, I'll pay you double what you're making right there to do the same thing over here.
Or I mean, it can be a football thing too. Like the implication that like, oh, if a good player played yesterday and didn't sit out, they were like, he only cares about the passion and all that, which implies that the other player, and that you don't know that. I'm saying, like, here's what I would say to the announcers as far as handling the transfer portal. Just don't say anything. Call the game that's on the field. You have no idea what's going on. You don't know the backstory. You don't know these people's families. You have no idea. So just don't talk about it. Just ignore it. Be like, so-and-so's not playing. But we're going to move on. We're going to call the game that's on the field. We don't need you speculating, because all it does is enhance the stereotype that, like, now we got a bunch of young kids that, aren't smart enough or strong enough or tough enough to stick it out and blah, blah, blah. But what they don't do is talk about, guys that went to Ohio State, Alabama, the powerhouses back in the 80s and 90s and rode the bench because they had a bunch of stars coming in, and you don't remember their name because they never made it to the field and never got their shot. We don't know that they couldn't have transferred to Arkansas and been a player for a year. So, like, that was my takeaway from yesterday. The announcers were really irritating me as far as like that implication. Other than that, great thing of games. As far as the first round of playoffs, we can just talk about it. It was 50-50. Two really good, entertaining games. I thought Alabama, Oklahoma at a home stadium was super, super fun. Miami, Texas A&M game was interesting. It just wasn't that great of a game, but that's what happens. When you're outdoors and the wind is blowing, like, you're going to get a weird game, which is what we begged for years, instead of getting these, always getting a dome stadium and always getting a controlled environment. So I really enjoyed the weather impact of it. I enjoyed, the home field impact of it. As far as the G5s, I'll just say it, they embarrassed themselves. They've embarrassed themselves this whole postseason, and mainly because, like, Mo, me and you talked earlier in the year and talked about all the upside of the G5 being relevant and all the upside of the G5 being included and all of these things. What we overlooked was that what the G5 became this year was just an interview, a resume for coaches to get a better job. That's all. So, like, every G5 school now, here's how it's going to go in this format. Hey, man, if you're really good, you're going to lose your coach, and he's probably going to take half your team. So, like, I don't know why we need to, like, care so much about the G5 being included and all that, if that's how they're going to feel about it. None of these G5 schools are rolling it back next year like, we're going to get better. We're going to do no. Coaches leave, players leave. Like, it's minor league, and that's fine. But, like, we don't need to include a AAA team. We don't need, like,
my thing. I'm with you on the coaches, but the part of the argument that I disagree with, I'm with the G5 and everything. It is an interview, and these guys are going, and I even think it's going to be similar situations like the Brian Hartlines that really got to prove it. You're going to go down from the offensive coordinator at Ohio State to get a head coaching job, do something in the G5 at Memphis, at USF, at Tulane for a few years. If you win some games, you'll get a P5 opportunity. But they're taking half their roster with them. No, they're not. Like, because we also watch these games and the whole, like, well, they're just
those guys ain't playing.
No, they're not. Because the biggest thing of everybody's argument from G5, and here's the thing that separates them now: money. I don't have enough money to put the talent to be playing an Oregon. Money now buys talent, and it has nothing to do with Oregon. And listen, because we're Ohio State fans, we're in that argument on the side of you can't even play with us money wise. And so you're watching James Madison in their endless salary cap. You see how much that gets you versus Oregon, who has endless money, who's going to buy the top talent. Like, that's the NIL world that we're in. So the whole, like, Alex Golis is going
to. But that money was always there before NIL. Oregon's
what I'm saying is, like, but no longer do you have Cincinnati, where a G5 school has 9 players that's going to go to the NFL. You don't have that anymore because you can't, like, now that we're talking about, now that money plays a factor, you can't afford that. There is no, like, let's do it some other way. So the talent, Alex Golesh is not taking half his USF team and going to the SEC.
No.
Tulane's not taking half his Tulane team and taking them and saying, and if you do that, then you're just looking for opportunity for players that you love, because you're not looking to go to the next level and win, because you saw what the top versions of the G5 talent looked like against not even the first or second favorites, to win the college football playoff. And Oregon's a damn good team. And like the final result kind of was what we thought it would be. What we saw through the first 2.5 quarters was exactly what we expected from Oregon versus JMU. Obviously, like, at that point, Oregon knows we're just looking. They're probably putting backups in. We're just looking to the next round. But the part of just, it's a stomping grounds of like, trust me, Oregon ain't looking at nobody on James Madison like, this dude.
That's fair. Well, so here's my
Oregon scholarship. Like, only the quarterback entered the portal, and he's going to end up somewhere like Oklahoma. That's the other thing. They're going to hit the portal. Yeah, a James Madison player gets looked at US, and they're going to go to like Oklahoma State. They're going to go to BYU. They're going to go.
What I'm saying is, though, when I say take them with them, I didn't mean actually bring them with them. I mean, they're all just auditioning to try and get out of there. And here's my point. If you want to get out of the G5, I agree with you. I don't have time for because here's what we overlooked also. This is a television sport. This is a sport for Mo and Jeff to focus on something besides the real world for 3 hours and enjoy a game. Right. And they wasted 2 prime games in the college football playoffs because for some reason we think the G5 for some reason they confuse college basketball with college football, and they just made a mistake. They screwed up. We could have we would look at the numbers. 14 million people watch one game, 4 million people watch the next game.
Shouldn't Miami of Texas saying at the very least on that day, once Tulane and JMU got in, all right, cool. This is what we got to deal with. But how you could have did it, you could have made those games that, like, Miami, Texas A&M should have been the primetime game at Saturday night, not Oregon, James Madison.
I don't think the numbers would have been any better, though.
I think but what I'm saying is I think the Miami, Texas A&M numbers.
They shouldn't have scheduled it the way they did.
I'm saying for the fan, like on a Saturday, hey, this is a perfect time for all of us elitists to say, you got us for the day. We're just trying to be home by the Miami, Texas A&M game. Like a typical Saturday when there's no elite games. That's a normal Saturday for us elitists, Jeff. So it's not out the norm basing it.
We're talking about 12 teams left. Everybody's in this with 12 teams left. No, nobody would have watched that. I watched the James, I watched the James Madison game, watched the Tulane game. Unwatchable. It wasn't playoff football. It wasn't even as good as early season college football. Everybody was just wrong. G5, all these teams had no business in this. And we just as a television product, as a football product, we would have been way better to take Notre Dame or Texas, whoever you want to grab, clear down to probably any of the, like, there's so many better teams that would have put up a fight. Because that's what it really should be about. Because at the core of it, this is not, again, I stress again, this is not an NCAA championship. This is a television championship. It's not a real thing. It's an invitational tournament. That's all of this is. So if you're going to do that, you might as well make it as good as humanly possible. You got a guy like me at home ready for it, and you wasted 7 hours of one of the best, could have been the best football days of all time, because here's the difference. And here's the argument. Well, there's blowouts all around. Yeah, but you know what? It was fun as hell watching Tennessee getting blown out last year. It was fun as hell watching Oregon get blown out last year. Nobody had fun watching Tulane and James Madison get blown out. It was empty. We had an empty feeling. We don't know the players on the field. We don't care about them as far as like their futures or any of that. We're not attached to them. Like if Diego Pavia gets blown out by Oregon, that's a story. And I was until the very beginning. And nobody cares about Tulane
versus Ole Miss. Like I was just about to say, I'm with you though, because I think Notre Dame versus Ole Miss in that time slot, and then Oregon versus Vanderbilt under the lights on Saturday night makes for a perfect day. Now, if blowout still entail, but you take
we'd still like it.
If Oregon blows out Vanderbilt, not only are we talking about like Diego Pavia and his, but you're talking about like, man, Oregon might be real deal national championship contenders, like off of a first round playoff game by blowing out a legitimate team. You don't, like you said, it's empty. What you felt about Oregon coming in, you still feel that way after the James Madison game. And you're waiting to see in the second round what they do to see. Like, if they get to the Final Four, then I guess I got to take them serious. But you could have a different feeling about Oregon. You could have a different feeling about Ole Miss. Now, if Lane Kiffin leaves and Ole Miss beats Notre Dame, like, we having a different type of conversation of like, now you're even like, now Lane has to answer on Saturday night when LSU is playing Houston. Are you sure you made the right choice, brother?
Yes.
Ole Miss just went over there and beat Notre Dame, this team that everybody was vouching for to make the playoffs. We put them in and they beat them. Yeah, it was at home and all that. They beat them without you. They beat them without half your staff. They beat them without some players that probably playing on not playing. So like they did all like, so are you sure you made the right choice? You're making more conversation that actually matters. Like, you take away something from Ole Miss, but like, hey, asking Lane how, yeah, I'm proud of those guys, but like, we were going to do that whether I was on the sideline or not.
It's just more interesting. It's just more interesting. And these teams too, like I give credit to the power schools. Like, they put more into it. They put more money. They dedicate more into it. Like the G5 outside of existing has not done anything to earn like a spot over Texas, who has invested everything in their team. And it's just, and I watched them play too. Like, and the bottom line is I watched them play. The players weren't as good. None of it was, and just look at the quarterback. Like, I looked at this North Texas quarterback yesterday and I'm like, couldn't wait to see him play again. But then when I really looked at it, I'm like, if this cat's playing for Oregon, they get mashed. Like, I mean, there is just like, we have to, at some point, you have to like respect the level of difference and the disparity. Am I saying that they can't come up with a way for a G5 team to earn their way in? Of course they can. I obviously a G5 team.
Like
I'm not saying they don't need eliminated. I know you've got some really great thoughts on how to fix it. But also what I would say is like, outside yesterday's bowl games were pretty good, but here's what I can tell you. People ain't going to the bowl games. Only people like us are watching the bowl games. It's not that it can't be good football, but it's still a television product. You know what I'm saying?
And you
so
can
like
turn the bowl games into a G5 playoff. Like, you could turn it into What About Us? And it's like a secondary type of playoff game that matters. Like,
you just touched on though. I mean,
SEC, Big Ten, like those teams. Hey, if you don't make the 12-team playoff, you can't play in.
But you've already done your playoff. Like, you've already played
like,
good
you
teams.
Can't play in another playoff for the simple fact, like, then that takes away from the 12-team playoff and what you're trying to do, because then you might as well only have 20 teams every year competing for a national championship.
People that watch football, all they need is the game to matter. They do not care why it matters. They do not care what the stakes are. They only want games that matter. This is not, everybody that remembers bowl games back in, the 90s or in the 80s when I grew up, it was different. There's no way I can explain how much a meaningless bowl game mattered back then. No way I can tell somebody how much the Gator Bowl and the Citrus Bowl and all these bowl games that you're watching now, like, out of the corner of your eye, matter. People just want games that matter. You put anything on the line. I mean, something real on the line. Like, just like you said, you play those bowl games yesterday and then say, hey, next week, y'all's playing again. Now we're interested. Now we're gambling. Now we care. Now quarterbacks, maybe a guy doesn't sit out. Like Pittsburgh, who was it? Not Pittsburgh, East Carolina. Starting quarterback, best wide receiver, best running back sit out for a bowl game, and they played East Carolina because they want to go to the next level. That's fine. But I'm saying maybe they don't. Just maybe they – I know they won anyway. It was cool. But I'm saying, like, that's all they want is just something – and you just said, just give them something that matters. It's all fake. None of it matters, but we want to think like, oh, man, I can't wait to see – because now we're invested. So now we watched those games yesterday, and I'm like, oh, man, East Carolina is going to play Houston. East Carolina playing Houston next week. We're tuned in. Okay, I'll let you go. I mean, I know you got some great ideas, but
so before we get there, I want to stick on the playoffs before we talk about the quarterfinal, because that'll take for the rest of the show.
Alabama, Oklahoma was a great game.
I have a problem with the college football playoff schedule.
I love it. What's wrong?
Fact, like, okay, Big Ten conference championships, boom, skip a week, play that next Saturday. Like, what are we doing? Then play the following Saturday. Then the national championship, like, first off, we need to get rid of the national championship on a Monday, but they're never going to do it. So let's just kiss that goodbye. But like Saturday, then if you want to skip, Like if you just don't play that following Saturday, you got 10 days. You play that Saturday, and then you have 10 days until the national championship. They don't need 2.5 weeks. They don't need like all this build up for like the NFL playoffs to play in between, just so you don't forget about, oh, there's still a college football national championship to be played. Like they drag it, and I get it. Like on New Year's Eve when Ohio State plays Miami, nobody's going to be complaining about everybody. Oh, if we went the way you wanted the schedule, there wouldn't be a game on New Year's Eve, and then waking up on New Year's Day on a Friday, like, oh, if you wanted the schedule the way you did, we'd have to wait till January 2nd. Like, yes, all of that is correct, but just the fact of there's too much time in between games. Like the fact that these guys are about to play on Thursday, and like they played almost 3 weeks ago. Like a team played, I played the first round of the playoffs was 2 weeks ago, and these teams are about to play again. Like it's just too much time. You're like overextending.
They really messed up the early part. I think after this round and then on to the championship, having like 9 days or whatever in between is great. But you're right. What they're really wasting is really wasting the week after the conference. And again, we don't even need to do another show about how stupid the conference championship games are, but wasting the week after the conference championship games is just a disgrace. Like we're all sitting here like great, Army Navy's on. Ain't nobody don't care about Army Navy. It's just on. I mean, there's people that do, but I'm saying like as a whole, like that game doesn't mean anything.
But you know how you make that game mean even more, Jeff? Listen to this. Watch this.
Okay.
So the college football playoff starts the following weekend. We have one game on that Friday night. The following weekend after conference championship weekend, a team plays that Friday night. How you determine that? You won't even know until selection Sunday. But what you try your best to do is whoever played that Friday night, the matchup is not going to be, if we can do our best, is not going to be a game of a team who played in the conference championship. So that they don't, everybody like, okay, you came off a bye week. What? Boom. Then you play 2 games. All you're trying to do is play 3 games? You play 2 games on the Saturday. You put Army Navy at 12 o'clock kickoff. You have a 3:30 p.m. playoff game. You have a 7 o'clock primetime playoff game. Boom, Jeff. The Army Navy's amazing. Why?
I don't want to cancel the Army Navy game.
No. I'm saying not cancel it, but I'm saying you like how we feel like how you could make that game matter even more.
It would look better
to the college football playoffs. Like that's the 12 o'clock game. So every year the college football playoff will be played post Army Navy, but that's how you make people like fully invest into like, okay, all odds, even if you just catch the fourth quarter. And over the years, people start investing into the game even more, other than the fact I knew somebody that was in the Army, or the fact like me, I was in the Navy, so I like watching that game. I got some.
And you're going right into a playoff game.
Right into a playoff game. So, like you said,
imagine after Army Navy, we have whatever Texas Vanderbilt or whatever it was going to be.
All you wanted was the game to matter. That's what
I'm saying. They really,
we just need the game
wasting.
To matter. Army Navy matters because it's a national heroic introduction into the college football playoffs.
I should point that out. I meant no disrespect to the players.
No, I know.
I'm just saying that. It can. That's what I meant. It can be played with other games.
I think that's why I watch.
I think it's actually better. I think it would actually. I think you touched on. I think it's better if we're like, man, whatever Illinois game. That playoff game starts at 3:30. Army Navy games first. You're getting revved up. You're in the football mood. You're already drugged to the screen. All those things. Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great idea. And it's a little like that. It's a little like that with the people. Like I don't know how much you watch, but like the people that dabble in like the Division II and the FCS games is like. They kind of like that's that weekend to where we watch some of that and it's on and it is good football. But now do that times 10, and put power teams in. Because here's the thing that I don't like is like, I don't know why the powers that be are ignoring the fact that like, it's no different than you go to the movies, Mo. When you go to the movies and you look at all the signs and you see what movies are on, they put on the signs, they put the biggest actor, the biggest director. That's what draws you to the movie. That's what college football is. Like, I'm sorry, the rest of college football, like James Madison does not have the amount of people investing in the brand that Texas does, that Notre Dame does. Like you have to give some credit to your fan base for like, we've invested all, like you wouldn't watch a TV series for 12 weeks and then you get to the season finale and they're like, here's the season finale, but we changed all the actors. Everybody be like, what? Like so that's what they're kind of missing. Like everybody takes us for granted, like they're going to watch, they don't care. But we also are what drives the sport, we're what fuels the sport, literally money, viewers. And here's what, this is the bottom line. Advertisers run the sport. We watch the sport. Advertisers spend money based on how many eyeballs are on the sport. We had 2 games last week that had 10 million less viewers than the other 2 games. You cannot tell me that, your mobile phone companies, your movie companies, car companies, whoever's advertising is like, hey, we just had 10 million less viewers because y'all wanted Tulane in the playoffs. That's got to stop. And that's really what's going to drive all this is the money, the advertisers, the money. They're going to be like, Nike's like, we didn't spend all year the $1 billion on this team to have 4 million people watch. You know what I mean? Like we should have 20 million people watching Oregon Notre Dame this weekend to see our product on the field, to see our advertisers, to see the swoosh on the jersey. So that's really what's going to drive this is I think the viewers this year is really what's going to change college football. And that's just the sad reality of it. It's the truth.
But, Jeff, because we're considered elitist because of who we're fans of, and sometimes we can't help it. Like me being an Ohio State fan, like you're an Ohio guy through and through. Me being in Ohio, I can't help it. I was born into this. Mm-hmm. So like saying I'm an elitist, like all my family's from Columbus. My dad, born and raised in Columbus. So when you're born and raised in Columbus, you got to be an Ohio State fan. There's no other way. So I can't help it. But yes, I love to watch elite football. But I'll deep dive and watch Nebraska versus Iowa at a time that nobody cares about when both teams are down just because. Or I watch Vanderbilt versus Arkansas, not this new Vanderbilt with Diego Pavia, just because there's one player on Arkansas that I might want to see and they're playing at it. So it's not that I'm an elitist where it's I got to see Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Notre Dame, or else I don't want to see.
I just want the good teams. I don't care who they are. I
just want, and in this NIL era right now, there's even a difference between a lot of these lower tier Power 4 schools, especially certain conferences. When we talk about like the difference in a bad team in the Big 12 and ACC compared to a bad team in the SEC, the Big 10, like there's a difference. There's a difference in quality of product where your worst team in the SEC probably beats your worst team in the Big 12 by 50, like makes them truly look minute. So like but I love watching good football, which is coming up here in the college football playoff quarterfinal, Jeff. But I'm gonna tell you, so I usually like talking about everybody else before I talk about Ohio State, but we did that for like the first 30 minutes, focusing on what we've missed over the past couple weeks. Ohio State's playing Miami. Now, I said this on the show. I don't know if you were able to hear it, but I said this on my show that like now that Ohio State, that after Miami won, and a day or two settled in, I started learning there's real beat. Like Miami fans hate Ohio State. Like
despise
but I was a kid when we won the national championship, but I also stayed up and watched the national championship. I remember it. I have the DVDs, the videos. So it's not that I didn't understand, but like 20 plus something years later, and like they're holding on to a pass interference call as if it defined that pass interference call defined both universities' futures. And so Miami feels like it's almost like they feel like we've been living their life since that play call.
Yes.
But before that, there's a whole bunch of, we can argue about that game. I don't really care about that game. But that game is the point of like, it's like being the brother that, it's almost like in Creed 3, Jeff. Remember, like his whole problem was I went to jail while you lived I was the better boxer. I was the guy I was going to be the dynasty. I was going to be the pro. And then I went to jail and you lived the life that I was supposed to live. And so now that I got out, I'm coming for everything that you've taken, which is 3 national championships, like 6 or 7 national championship appearances, multiple being relevant in the playoff era, being relevant in every era since then. I'm coming for that. And that's how Hurricanes feel. Fans feel. Like it's that kind of envy. I didn't know there was that kind of hate in their heart. Like I almost was, are we playing the Miami Hurricanes or are we playing Michigan? Like the type of hate that you're seeing from and I pay attention to the internet. So the internet people, the podcasters, the radio people for the Hurricanes, the spokespeople, and even the podcasters that are like myself that you see on that are just fans with a microphone. I respect them too, because the same way they see and reference what I say, because they see it on internet as Ohio State fans law, the same thing. So from the smallest voice to the biggest voice of Miami Hurricane, there's this different type of hate in their heart.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know it was there, Jeff. I did not, like, I know when you talk to a Miami fan, like our beloved Chris LeBron, like they will bring that game up. I understand it. But I did not understand that the hate was like this is almost like a rivalry. But what's funny, real quick, I just have to point out is, let me put the Miami Hurricanes fans in reality check. It's not as much of a rivalry as y'all think. My proof is in the pudding. Go on SeatGeek, go on StubHub, go wherever you want. When on Selection Sunday, the bowl game at AT&T Stadium that Ohio State was placed in, tickets were through the roof, Jeff, through the roof. And guess who bought them? All Ohio State fans. You know how I know that's true? Because everybody else that would possibly buy it was waiting on the result. Miami versus Texas A&M. I said this was my theory, and I was going to prove it. And I wanted Miami to win just for it to happen. I said I didn't buy tickets yet because I'm like, if Texas A&M wins, I'm gonna just take the gamble. If Texas A&M wins, I'm just flat out not going to the game. The tickets are going to go through the roof because all the A&M fans are going to flood Dallas and all that. Come in from Texas. It's a Texas team. The tickets will be, but if Miami wins, tickets are going to drop. And tickets probably aren't going to sell out, and they're going to keep dropping because all the Ohio State fans that are going to travel already bought their tickets, and they bought a plethora of them. There's going to be a lot of scarlet and gray. But what hasn't sold is the ones that they planned on for the winner of Miami, Texas A&M. There are still plenty of tickets because when Miami fans got the result, how many fans are coming to Dallas? Not a lot, because there's not a lot of them. You sprinkle in Miami fans everywhere, and then now that they're playing a team like Ohio State, they got a voice. So they better enjoy this moment. The Hurricanes fans better enjoy this moment because on New Year's Eve, Jeff, it's going to be a difference. The voices are gone when Ohio State take it from them. I just had to throw that out there.
No. And it's true. And it really is. It really does fall back to like Ohio State changed the direction of that program, even though if Miami fans would remember, they were right back in it the next year, just like Ohio State was, and kind of flubbed it, towards the end of the year. Like people forget that Ohio State was one win away from going back to the national championship game and lost to Michigan. And Miami was the same way. Like they were very good again after that, but like that's definitely a defining game. It's considered one of the biggest, like I won't say it wasn't really an upset as much as like, man, really the bully on the block, got beat down. Like it was a shocker. It's hard to explain how good there's no team that we've had since then that we thought was as good as that Miami team coming into that game. That team doesn't exist anymore because we watch so much. Well, we watch so much more football now that team really can exist. The closest is probably like the USC teams were up there. 2015 Ohio State honestly was close, but we just don't have these mythical teams anymore. So that was the last time that anybody really knocked off one of these teams, and it was a shocker. And yeah, they've held on to that, and I don't blame them. They should. They also forget the next, like everybody, like they did lose in Braxton Miller's freshman year and that terrible Luke Fickell year, but the year before that, Terrell Pryor beat Miami. It's not, it's not as. And here's what's cool. I love it. I mean, they should hate Ohio State. We absolutely are as arrogant as they think we are. We absolutely feel like we have the better team. We absolutely look at them the way that they think we look at them. And that's not out of disrespect. It's just out of like, y'all been back for a while. Now you won a game or whatever, but like we do not put them on the same pedestal as us. Am I saying they can't win the game? No, I'm not saying that, but I'm not going to sit here and say that, oh yeah, they're on equal playing field with Ohio State. No, not after everything we've done for 25 years since. No. And so, yeah, everything they think about us is true. They should absolutely despise us. They should absolutely want to beat us. They should absolutely, be sick at their stomach for what happened in that game and everything above. Like they let Craig Krenzel be the leading rusher in a game that they had NFL running backs. and Craig Krenzel was a leading rusher in the game. Like all these things, like, so yeah, I love it. I love how mad they are. I love how I think it's one of the few advantages to Ohio State that like the other team is so focused and ramped up and cares so much. I think that's an advantage for a team to like they can come in and be like, well, we'll see what happens. And the other team is, putting everything in the other team cares about this game, so much more. And, as far as like fans and all that, I think that's a good thing for Ohio State that they're not coming in with the same pressure that 0-2 Miami team had going into Ohio State. I don't care what the spread is. It is nothing like that. So, but yeah, I love it. And then you're right. It's the fan base, the size, like you can't even compare it, but I'm not going to sit here and if somebody's a fan of Miami, it doesn't just because they don't have 10 other people beside them just like that. I respect it. And I can't imagine how bad teams want to beat Ohio State right now.
But it's
like,
just
so
Miami it's where Miami thinks their relevancy is as opposed to where they think it is.
Miami for you, man.
It really is though. Like that's what
we don't know that yet.
But I'm starting to see this arrogance from like, I get it. They do think we're arrogant. And there is a form of like, yeah, like Ohio State, our expectations coming into
just won the national championship. Why wouldn't we be arrogant?
Like our expectations coming into every season is different. Like the y'all lose one game and cry about it. We lose one game and that's a successful season. That's the difference in the program. That's the difference in being Ohio State or Alabama or Georgia, where certain things are acceptable, certain things aren't. And it starts with your fans because essentially, like, forget the players, but like coaches and stuff, you keep your job based on winning and losing games. And as you lose games, you lose fans' interest and that loses money. And that means we can't keep having that happen. But the standard of what a fan expects kind of is what the expectation is of a program, but it starts by what a program gives you product on the field and where you see it can go. Ohio State's trajectory every year is just different than Miami's. And they want to be like, they want to be Ohio. And I get it. There's probably a lot of teams. There's a lot of fan bases. Oh, I'd love to have the problems that Ohio State fans claim they have and all that. And sure, I get that. But the thing about it is Miami is trying to make themselves like if they lose this game to Ohio State, all those same people that are going to be loud are going to turn around and be like, but we beat Texas A&M on the road, so we had a good season. We just ran into an Ohio State. Like, once we start playing this game and once the final result happens, if it ain't what you've been screaming for the past week and a half, then you're just going to chalk it up to, well, I mean, they were the better team and we were so you'd have to admit that you were down there talking up. That's what you have to admit as a fan. But see, you as fans, y'all will take that. Ohio State fans not taking that loss. Like, you'll take the loss. Obviously, the day goes on. Everybody's going to wake up. But the opinion about it isn't going to be, well, at least we made the playoffs. Our last game, we lost to Indiana. We be damned if we don't win a game again before we find ourselves exited out of the college football playoffs. Like, we be damned if this team don't go to the semifinal, just as fans and your thoughts and feelings. Like, nothing's going to happen, right? They're going to keep his job, all that. But Miami will be okay with losing to Ohio State as long as it's close. As now that Vegas set the spread at 9.5, Miami fans, Jeff, will be okay with, well, we covered. That's what they're going to jump on the plus 9.5 and be like, well, I mean, Ohio State ain't that good because we covered. But up to this point, to the time we having a conversation, Miami fans are telling me we got to worry about this vicious defense and this violent.
I would say
nothing that we've seen like that, but the tonal change once Ohio State handles business, the tonal change, and they're going to turn into Tennessee fans, or they're going to turn into the Oregon fans of last year, or they're going to turn into them Texas fans. Your tone was all that until your team had to step on the field with our team, and then once the result happened, oh, well, it was Ohio State. I mean, oh, this was one of the best rosters ever. Oh, this is Ohio State. Like, we aren't them. Like, you chalk it up, but you, since you're playing Ohio State, you taking your moment to chop yourself into relevancy just so that when you fall, you think you're going to fall gracefully.
And that's fair. But I would compare this game to when Ohio State played Alabama in 2014 as to where it was a chance to exercise demons. And I do think there is something to, they've had to live with 26 years of that championship game being thrown in their face. And I do think that whether the players on the field remember it, I mean, they were barely born, if they were born, all these things. I do think there is a sense of like, I don't know, of revenge. I mean, and I think that's fair. I think that's why we love college football. I think it's fair. And if Miami wins this game, I think it's fair for them to shove it in their face and all that. Even though everything you said is true, I do think that, like, if I was at the age I'm at, like, I'm gonna like I care a little bit about winning this game just because I don't want that to go away. I want it to happen twice. I want to beat him in a bowl game twice. I want to beat him in a meaningful game twice. Like, I don't want the feeling of Miami even in the score, even though it won't be even. I don't want that feeling. So, like, I can see that side of it as to where that adds, and that's going to be fueled by the media. It's going to be thrown out there. We're going to see, they're not going to show the pass interference calls they didn't call. They're not going to show the catch that should have been in bounds. They're not going to show all the other stuff. They're going to show the play, and that's how it's going to be. I think it's fair for Miami to care that much about the revenge. But I do agree that their expectations are different. The world's going to be different. If to me, if Ohio State loses this game, I would consider the season a complete failure. After, if we lose to Miami and Indiana back to back and really don't win any kind of championship or whatever, don't win a playoff game with this roster, especially the way Day's coached it all year, I would consider it an absolute embarrassment, an absolute failure. Everything that Miami wants me to consider, as opposed to if they lose, they'll be like, won a playoff game, gave it a shot against Ohio State, turn around next year. So yeah, the ramifications aren't the same for these two teams, but that's fine. It's college football.
Yeah, and you're right. Now let's talk about the Ohio State side of things. Like,
but again, just real quick, think how much more passionate we are about this game than James Madison, Oregon. That's my whole point about the playoffs.
Yeah, you're right. But I feel like you probably came into this show not even expecting that I was going to go so hard on Miami.
Oh no, I've seen you all week. I follow you close. Yeah, like, right. I knew exactly what was coming.
Because they've been talking, Jeff, and it's like, I get it, but like, I hear you. I do hear you, but I don't get it because I'm trying to tell Miami fans, Chris don't want to believe me, and I love my guy Chris, but here's the thing, and here's where I speak to it because I lived it. Miami fans are talking so loud, but like, I know I'm an Ohio State fan. I grew up in the state of Florida. When I tell you, like, I was born in 95. I'm 30 years old. I lived in Florida for the first 18 years of my life consistently. Didn't move nowhere else. Jeff, they've been the third most relevant brand. They think right now, because they won more than anybody else, it was bigger news about Billy Napier getting fired and who Florida's coach is. They made more noise than Miami beating Texas A&M. And that's a fact. Them going after Lane Kiffin was way more important in the state of Florida. It was way more important in the national news than them beating Texas A&M. And that's a fact. And that's a first round college football playoff game. The Florida's they just think because they're up right now and they're in the playoff that they are not as relevant as they like to think. They have this egotistical because the city, like, if you're a Hurricanes fan, you probably really got ties to Miami. So they got this egotistical, like, well, everybody loves the city of Miami. Yeah, sure. But nobody looks at the Hurricanes the same way as they look at a vacation in Miami. It's two separate things. They don't correlate those things. Nobody goes and sees the Hurricanes campus, the University of Miami, when they're going to Miami. That they're not even close. So they have this level of arrogance, like they're coming in and coming to grab some respect that we stole from them. And it's like, bro, a lot of y'all, it is the older folks because they remember the 80s and 90s. But a lot of y'all, like, y'all really have not. There's really not a time period except for like 4 years back in the 90s that you've been more relevant than Florida State. So you're talking you're the third most relevant team in your state. Well, Ohio State think about the third most relevant program, any sport, anything, period, in the world.
But there's a couple things going into it. I know you got to move on. But what I will say is, if I'm Miami and in the last game that I watched Ohio State play was Indiana, I would be arrogant too. And I'm being honest about that. Like, there's no reason that they should be fearful, of Ohio State, coming into this game. They should be confident. They should think they're being overlooked. They should think the spread's too high, because it is. All these things are true. I'm not saying Ohio State can't blow them out. I know, if Ohio State plays their best game, I'm not even concerned about it. But we just did this last year.
Tennessee,
what I'm saying is,
same thing,
and that's fair. But they had every right to be like, but they were going to the shoe. It's a little different.
This is gonna be
Tennessee,
a home game.
Miami just beat Texas A&M. Like, I'm not gonna sit there and act like Texas A&M was terrible. And then the last thing they watched was like, if you watch Ohio State's offense and you've got what Miami has, you're like, we can win. Like, they have every right to believe they can win. But you're right about, I mean, that's how Miami's always going to be that way. They're always like, Michael Irvin's always going to show up when they're good and go crazy. You know, he ain't going to be there on the 6-6 teams. He's not going to be like, we know how this all works with them, as opposed to, you know, like if Ohio State just had the last 25 years that Miami had, we'd be like, you know, we'd have fired 7 coaches just like Miami had. So it's one of those things. It's a unique matchup. You know, as far as things go, Miami is kind of a weird football program, you know, as it is. It's only been around since the 80s, you know, so it's like they're just at two different, you know, points on the globe. So that's why it makes it a good matchup. It makes these fans are not going to get along. These fans are not going to be in the bars in Dallas, Fort Worth. Like, you know, I hope, like, best of luck. You know what I mean? Like, ain't gonna be none of that. So that's what's cool. That's what I like about this game. That's what I like about the divisiveness. And Miami is also one of those teams, like, if like, you don't live here, but like if you're in Ohio and a team and a guy or a girl just wants to hate Ohio State, they choose Notre Dame, they choose Michigan, or they choose Miami. And if you see them wearing any of those hats, you can walk up to them and each one of them will tell you they hate Ohio State. And that's pretty much how they became a fan. So like, my Miami fans are just Ohio State haters that are like, I got to pick a team. It's what age they were when they picked the team, whether they got Miami, Notre Dame, or Michigan. But you know that they just like didn't like their dad or mom or grandpa or whoever, and it's animosity. So that's my version of Miami fans that I have to deal with. But again, they're going to play the game and find out, because that's another thing. It's going to be real, real bad if they win. Real bad. Like, Ohio State's going to have nothing to say. They're going to just come off 2 losses in a row to Indiana and Miami. Like, it's going to be bad. So, like,
I'm gonna have to be quiet, like this level of arrogance as a fan. But here's the thing, Jeff. So on the Ohio State side, like, because here's what here's I think where my arrogance come from. Like, okay, we saw the Indiana game. Sure, maybe there's a recipe there. There might be. Like, Texas held us to 14, Indiana held us to 10. That's probably not, you know, something to look past. But the factor in this game that wasn't in the Texas game, which was one of two things. There were 2 things in that Texas game. It was Julian Sands' first start, and it was Brian Hartline's first game as the offensive coordinator calling plays. So we slow walked the dog, and it seemed like ever since then, that's how we decided to approach the season, because it looked like it was going to work. And it pretty much worked all the way up into the Indiana game. Now, we were waiting on, like, oh, they're going to explode this offense, da-da-da. And we look, maybe this was just what the Brian Hartline offensive play calling was going to be for Ohio State. Now, though, what we do know is Brian Hartline is not calling plays for this game. What we do know is Ryan Day is calling plays for this game. And what we do know is, coming off of losses, back against the wall, and Ryan Day take over the offense, it's happened on multiple occasions. The offense explodes. They let loose. The playmakers are now making plays all over the field. The quarterback throwing and slinging with all the confidence in the world, looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the country, which is what he was all season long anyway. The running game gets going. The offensive, like, because we know how great our defense is. I don't think anybody, like, the same way, I don't think anybody is worried about Miami slicing and dicing the defense, because nobody this year has done it. Not a single quarterback, not the Heisman winning quarterback. Indiana only scored 13 points in that game. So even the Heisman winning quarterback didn't slice up our defense. So when you're an Ohio State fan, you're not looking at this nervous from a defensive perspective. Matt Patricia, Arvell Reese, Caleb Downs, and company, you trust is going to hold it down, because on the scoreboard all year, they've held it down. There's no reason to have zero confidence. So your question is on the offensive side of the ball. But knowing that you have Jeremiah Smith, knowing that you have Carnell Tate, knowing that Julian saying, if anything, when he was throwing down the field and asked to stretch it down the field, pretty much accurate, on point, successful throws all season long. And knowing that when Ryan Day gets put in these situations and I'm taking over play calling and I got Hartline, that wasn't a move. He taking that head coaching job. The last thing I'm finna do is lose because this dude is still slow walking the dog calling these plays. I'm trying to win a back-to-back national championship. And the fact that we lost to Indiana and still that's the goal with this approach on offense, we think maybe it was the approach. Maybe it wasn't. It was just, this is what Brian Hartline is going to do as the offensive coordinator. This is what Matt Patricia turned this defense to as the defensive coordinator. And Ryan Day just like, I can't just take over play calling. I got to let Brian Hartline, I'm trying to give him an opportunity, And he probably very well encouraged Brian Hartline to take that job at USF. But like him taking over the play calling, I think is the best thing for Ohio. I think Brian Hartline taking the head coaching job at USF and Ryan Day taking over this offensive play calling is the best case scenario for Ohio State coming into this game and coming into these playoffs. Ryan Day proven when he was the known play caller for the offense has led some of the best offenses you've ever seen.
I agree. I totally agree.
He was the offensive coordinator. We questioned Chip Kelly all year. Then we heard about the fact of the whole Jim Knowles and Chip Kelly and why it rubbed everybody the wrong way because Ryan Day started taking over everything. Damn it, we 10-2. We still got an opportunity when I'm not taking this arguably one of the best rosters you've ever seen and look off the pride of what Chip Kelly, when I call this offense, we explode. And it wasn't coincidental that we come in and explode just on everybody. It opens up. It wasn't coincidental that CJ Stroud all of a sudden was just able to open it up on Georgia's defense. This defense that stopped everybody, and the minute Ryan Day started calling plays back against the wall, feeling like we got to win this game, the offense does what we expect it to do. So I think the difference in the offensive coordinator is a big the play caller. I think is the biggest thing. Biggest Ohio State all year.
Yeah, and I totally agree, and I was happy for it. It needed to go, but I still stand by it that I don't know. And they've had enough time. Here's the thing: I want to be clear. I think Ohio State's going to win this game, and I think they're the better team. And I don't really think it's close as far as like if you compare across the board. I do think Miami's a good football team, but I think it's one of these things. If both teams play really good, Ohio State's going to win. But I'm not going to sit there and act like I didn't watch the entire season. And it does make me nervous to think that an offense can just figure it out in 3 weeks without playing somebody. Or if he's got, if Ryan Day's got what it takes to come out and do what they did last year and go for it and take some shots and all these things, it's going to be fine. But I haven't seen it. That's all I'm saying is I haven't seen it. Miami hasn't seen it. Nobody in the country has seen Ohio State. Ohio State's offense has been pretty normal this year, no matter what anybody says. And they're playing against a much more athletic defense. They're playing against a defense that, can turn the mistakes into touchdowns, into field goals. These are all real things. Miami's definitely battle tested. I mean, they played a good enough schedule that, they know how to rally. I mean, again, we're not throwing out the Texas win. We're also not throwing out that Miami beat Notre Dame and that Miami beat Texas A&M. Miami honestly has, a better, like as far as the wins, Miami's got better wins on the season than Ohio State. I mean, I know, Ohio State can only play who they play, but they didn't beat Indiana. So, I mean, Miami's got every reason to think they can win the game. And
like I can go and be like, yeah, but the same way you're like with the way they look at Indiana, like I also, if even though our offense has been pretty average for Ohio State standards, especially based on the playmakers we got, I also watch like SMU bust open your defense, and I also watched Louisville.
Agreed.
So Notre Dame did it. Like it ain't like Notre Dame lost 10-3.
No,
like Texas A&M did it, but we also felt like Texas A&M was overrated all season.
I'm simply saying that I can see what Miami has every right to think they can win this game. Like Tennessee last year did not.
Sure.
Tennessee never had the right to think they could win a game. Miami has every right to think they can win this game from what we've seen. And again, I'm with you. If Ohio State plays on all cylinders, it's not close because I think their defense will hold up. I think they'll probably give up a little more yardage than they're used to because you're going to be in that dome. Things are going to be going fast. You're going to be nervous. You're going to make mistakes. Like you're going to give up some mistakes. But I felt good about the defense coming out of the Indiana game because that was an Indiana team that really, 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 really wanted to win that game, and they still couldn't do what they wanted. And I think Indiana's offense is pretty good, even though. I don't know if we'll find out about all these teams. We probably could have talked about some of the other games, but I do think Ohio State will win, but I'm just saying I can understand Miami not being like, they're not it's not David Goliath. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so just on a few of the other games real quick. I mean, we've already went an hour, but to me, the Indiana and Oregon, their games, like Indiana playing Alabama and Oregon playing Texas Tech. Like, obviously, if both of those, let's say both of those teams win, that could be a battle of like possible 2 number 1 pick, like the potential of who's going to be the number 1 pick
Oh,
in
yeah.
Dante Moore and Francisco Mendoza. So looking at it from that perspective, like, to me, knowing that that's probably this, like, if I'm a scout, that's probably a matchup I want to happen just off of I get to scout both of these guys in the same building, see both of them, what they do against both good defenses. But like, it's the easiest type of game to scout. But I feel like that puts, when you know that you got that type of capability at quarterback, I feel like it also puts a different type of pressure on you in this game. Like, Indiana is undefeated. You are what you've given me recently, right? Everybody, Ohio State is vulnerable because the last thing they did was lose to Indiana. Indiana took down big bad Ohio State that was coming in 12-0. The last thing you did was win the Big Ten championship and you earned the number 1 spot in the college football playoff. You coming off a bye week. The expectation is you got to win this game against Alabama. Like, what, you got Mendoza, you got the Heisman. Like, all these things have happened to the point, like, there is real, and I told, like, you should feel good if you're an Indiana fan that people are even saying this about your program, but I think this is a must-win game for Indiana. I also think this is a must-win game for Oregon, because I think it was Oregon and Texas Tech. I'm watching these teams, like, these team fan bases argue on Twitter and stuff, and your team was bought, this thing was earned, da-da-da. I think Texas Tech spent oil money, Oregon spent Nike money. We're going to see who spent it better. Like, I think that's the thing, is we're going to see who had the better investment when these two teams match up, as opposed to arguing about who earned their way up this way. Texas Tech was looking like they were going to fall out. The minute NIL came along and a couple donors said, we'll put $30 million into the program, boom, they're winning the Big 12 and going to the college football playoff. Oregon, boom, the minute NIL, they switch over to the Big 10. Phil Knight says, I want to see a national championship from Oregon before I die. Boom, they come in undefeated, win the Big 10 championship. Like, money could, but you don't go on. So I think with that Oregon, Texas Tech, like, I think that's a Dante Moore type of game. How good is this Texas Tech defense? We've seen them stifle a BYU offense, but we have a lot of questions based on, who they've played. Oregon, I think this is one of those. This is a must-win game. Like, Dan Lanning, you got an opportunity to get to the college football playoff semifinal. When you came in last year into the college football playoff, real loud, coming into the Big Ten, rightfully came in, won the Big Ten, beat Ohio State in the regular season, got your first round bye, and had another chance to put Ohio State away. Beating Ohio State twice in the season was going to be a hell of a feat for Dan Lanning. It was going to be a hell of an opportunity for Oregon to outright possibly take over the Big Ten for years to come. And they didn't do it because that is one of the tallest tasks to do. But now you have an opportunity to get to the college football playoff semifinal with JMU and Texas Tech. Everybody, 2 years ago when they had smacked Colorado, everybody was all on how great Dan Lanning is, and Dan Lanning is a great coach. I'm not saying he's not, but at some point, it's like with Lane Kiffin, you got to win something. Like, you won the Big Ten championship last year, cool, but we're already in an era where people are talking about how irrelevant that game is, in a sense, for all conferences. So I think this is a must win. Like, and this is an opportunity to battle as a Big Ten. This is a possibility of having 3 Big Ten schools in the semifinal. But like, for Oregon and Indiana, I think with you having a better quarterback, with you having a better season, with you basically being the better team, I think these are must wins. For Kurt Cinetti, you've been loud. You have an opportunity to put Bama. I know this is Bama's down year, but if you're going to be as loud as you was on your way to going 13-0 and winning the Big Ten championship, then you got to put a school like Alabama down when they're down. I think that's a fair.
A lot of it depends. There's a few things too, as far as, so all 4 of these games are the same, as far as you got 4 teams that need to win these games and establish themselves of like, we are the cream of the crop. Oregon, Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia all should win these games. They've all established themselves for 2 decades as the best teams in college football. Nobody should get in their way. They should overcome, lesser teams on their way. All these things, like you said, Oregon can't lose to Texas Tech. Alabama can't lose to Indiana. I can tell them firsthand how embarrassing that is. They can't do it. Georgia, they cannot lose to Ole Miss, especially Ole Miss with a new coach and all these things. Like Ohio State, we've already talked about. Like, so that's All 4 of these teams have that on the line. Then when we get to the Final Four, anybody can win. Nobody will care. And I'm being honest about that. Like, nobody's going to be like, oh, man, I can't believe Ohio State lost to Georgia. Like, no, that shit happens all the time. But you got to get past these ones.
Right.
Then as far as the Indiana thing goes, like, what can't happen is a lot of it's going to be set up on New Year's Eve. If Ohio State wins, Indiana can't lose. If Ohio State loses, Indiana can at least lose. And trust me, Indiana can be like, we beat Ohio State. Everybody going to be cool. I mean, I just know Indiana fans. They're going to be like, we're cool. If Ohio State, just like last year with Oregon, like everything that Oregon did last year got erased when Ohio State beat them. It'll be the same thing. If Ohio State beats Miami and Indiana loses, now Indiana's season was wasted. Then it would validate that Ohio State, quote unquote, didn't care, all these things. So like, these are all just stories. I'm not saying the players shouldn't care. I'm just telling you, this is the overall feel. So like, that's why these games are so important. But those 4 teams have to win. All 4 of them have to win. None of them lose. We can't have Texas Tech, Indiana, Miami, and Ole Miss as the Final 4. Like, that's awesome for casual viewers.
Indiana has to win, though. Like,
no. I'm saying Indiana has to, but Alabama has to. Like, both have to win. I'm saying, like, I'm just like, Alabama loses to Indiana, it kind of erases. Like, there is something to lose into that name. I can tell them firsthand. So I agree, Indiana has to win also. Like, that's probably the game of the weekend, to where like both teams like can't lose this game, and one of them's going to. It's going to be pretty cool. But again, we can't have Ole Miss, Indiana, Texas Tech, and in the Final Four. Like, we just I can't see a world where this happens.
Having Tulane and JMU already like in the first round, having watched them play, like the final from here on out, it has to be like as entertaining as possible. And I think all these games coming up are uberly entertaining. So I'm looking forward to the quarterfinal. But I do, just my last thought on Indiana is like, I think Indiana has to win to validate their season. Like, and that's why it makes it a must win. In Alabama, like, and here's where the conversation gets a lot more weird, is Michigan has now hired their head coach. So everybody a couple weeks before, like, if Kalen DeBoer lost to Oklahoma, could it be a possibility that he goes to his Michigan job? There's people talking about this was an interest of his, That job is now taken. So if Alabama still feels like, if I'm an Alabama fan or if I'm donors or whatever, if they feel like this is a must win for Kalen DeBoer in the Alabama program and they fail, now what do you do? Because like, if you're Kalen DeBoer, like the interest of like mutually just wanting to leave necessarily isn't there, because the job opening that I would have left for is gone. But then like a lot of the coaches are hired, like the longer you get into these playoffs, you fire a coach, but who you gonna hire? And so I think that becomes sticky. But you see a lot of people want Kalen DeBoer out, whether it's right.
Yeah, but I mean, we said the same thing about Ryan Day last year, because sometimes people just that your fan bases are going to be like that. Here's what matters.
Ryan Day won the national championship though, not lost to Indiana.
Right, but here's what I would say is what really matters when you're going to fire a coach or not is like, if he stays, what players stay and what players can you bring in? It really depends on that, because what you can't do is fire a coach and then all of your good players are like, well, I'm out. So you can't, that'll set your program back. So like if all the players are like, we're going to hang around, we like what DeBoer's doing, you kind of got to go. That's why Lane Kiffin has a job. Lane Kiffin don't have a job because of his football coaching. He's got a job because he gets good players to stay and come to his school. And then, and coach them up, but it's not because it's not an X's and O's thing with Lane Kiffin, and it doesn't have to be in this day. So that's what we don't know about DeBoer, is what the relationship is like with players and the portal and things like that. Because, if you can keep the roster together, just like Ryan Day has proved that, like, he's still got talent there. If he fails this week, but if he keeps the talent, you got to keep him, because you can't risk flight and everybody leaving and people picking apart your team. And then if you can't bring, that's what I worry. I want just, you touched on it. It was a great hire by Michigan. That's the absolute best, possible outcome that they could have had, with firing a coach late and getting a Hall of Fame coach. But we don't know yet how he works with the transfer portal and the money and the NIL. I'm not saying he does or doesn't, but that would be the concern with hiring a 66-year-old coach from Utah. Can he keep the talent on the field as a quote unquote general manager type that these other schools have? And if he can, it's out of the ballpark. But if he can't, then it doesn't matter how good he can coach up 3 stars. So that's something you got to think about too when you're talking about firing a coach, is who's going and who's coming and all those things.
Yeah, and yeah, and that's really just the toughest part about the college sports right now as a whole. But Jeff, I appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I appreciate everybody for listening. I feel like this was a great show. Maybe Jeff, we record one more and pop one off before the playoff quarterfinal on New Year's Eve. But I definitely am glad that we got this in. And I was able to shit on Miami Hurricanes fans for a second. I needed that. I needed that opportunity. And I needed a true listening ear to hear the thoughts that have been bugging me going on in my head about these arrogant Miami fans. And I'm sure they're going to turn around and say the same thing about Coach Mo and Jeff Hunt and those arrogant ass Ohio State fans and how
As I say, y'all got beat by Craig Krenzel. Y'all got beat by Craig Krenzel.
You know what I'm saying? Y'all are holding on to something. We've done a lot since then, and y'all are still holding on to the past. We worried about this game for sure. But I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I appreciate everybody for listening. We will catch you on another episode of the Coach Mo Murphy Podcast.